welcome back to YouTube. I am in London. I'm with my friend Abbie. Where is she? There she is. And we are seeing Beyonce tonight. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time coming. We have just poured a fresh glass of fizz. And I thought for this week's video, we would do something a little bit different. It is not often that I get to do cool things like collaborate on things on YouTube, and Abbie is a long-time business bestie of mine. We are obviously both mamas as well. I'm going to link her details below. We are going to do a little quickfire wine hour, get ready with us, Q&A, all the things, and basically talk about the conversations that no one else is having about motherhood and business and this season that we're in. So whether you are a mama, an entrepreneur, maybe a parent in the future, or you're considering it, or you're not a parent and you don't want to be, but you just feel like in this season of life you're navigating change or you're juggling a lot of things, I really hope that you're going to find some solace in this video, in these conversations, and just some interesting conversations that you might not have had this week. So as always, please do like and subscribe. It really, really helps me grow my channel. Comment below any takeaways, anything that you have, and yeah, we're going to get into it. Okay, welcome to Wine Hour. Not going to last an hour, by the way, hopefully. But when you introduce yourself, let us know what you do.
So I'm Abbie, I am a messaging strategist, and I help women really be able to explain what they do so more people can work with them. I started my business in 2021, and then I was doing it alongside some consultancy work and a full-time job, and then I went full-time in 2020, and then I had my son in 2023.
So we have a lot in common around how we started our businesses as side hustles. We were going through like pregnancy at the same time, postpartum at the same time, like maternity, and now like toddlerhood at the same time, which is why this trip is so needed.
Yeah.
Through it all. Would you say that you feel like you're out the other side of the like, I know we're not technically postpartum anymore, but there is a fog, isn't there? Would you say that you feel like you're out of the fog now?
Yeah, and it definitely lasted longer than I thought it would. Like, I feel like I have a TikTok where I share like more motherhood stuff, and I know that there's a lot of people that follow me and they're like, I'm 3 months postpartum and I'm ready to get myself back, and I'm like thinking back to myself like, I thought that at 3 months postpartum, and I'm not saying that you can't feel yourself, but I am 18 months postpartum now, and I feel like now I've really turned a corner of being like, I'm ready to stop breastfeeding, get myself back to like focusing on me, and like, because I feel like I didn't really know what I wanted or what that change was at 3 months. I was still kind of navigating, letting go, this new era, actually like figuring out what motherhood looked like for me and what motherhood and my business looked like for me. 12 months I feel like is where I feel like I felt like on top of motherhood, if you ever feel on top of motherhood. And now 18 months is where I'm really like, this is my time. Yeah, you know, it's not easy. It feels manageable. I'm wanting to now look at like, where do I want to focus? Where do I want to improve or feel better? Or
yeah, and I feel like I rushed into that. You know, like I went back to work. Like for those that don't know, my son was born prematurely. He was 6 weeks early, so I instantly had to like stop working and just overnight, like it wasn't expected. So then I was going back to work earlier than I thought as well, and I was just like, oh, when I go back to work I'll be like boss mode again and I'll get to do all that. But and I genuinely, naively now I can say, like thought, oh, I'm just gonna snap back into it. When I work I'll just be like the version of me that was working at the pace that I was before, and you simply cannot do that with a baby.
No, it's like a huge ego death to also
ego
be like,
death is the word.
Is like, I came back to work 6 weeks postpartum, and I remember being like, it's fine, I'll just like come back in and I'll just work how I was working before, because I didn't know any different. Like, I didn't know how to parent without a business. I didn't know my business with a child. So I was like, I couldn't figure that out. And I also think people like, there's a narrative that like, you'll lose yourself. And I remember thinking, well, I just need to find myself real fucking quick. People are gonna think if I don't have my shit together, that I don't have my shit together. Huge thing for me as well is around that, like having to quickly figure things out real fast.
Yeah, and do it in a way that like gives you a path, even though you haven't necessarily got it all figured out yet. When I fell pregnant, I thought, right, this is it. I need to literally plan every single inch of it. And to be fair, to a degree, I did, and I had a really great plan for my business on maternity leave and everything. But then what I didn't plan for was having a premature baby, and also planning for the version of me that I didn't actually know yet.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and maybe you're pregnant or you're considering parenthood in the future, and it's like, well, everyone's saying to you, like, you just gotta, like, you are gonna be a different person, but it's really, really true. You go into the birthing room, one woman, and you come out a completely different, like, there is a whole death and rebirth kind of thing in that as well.
Yeah.
And like, you're not the same, and you have a tiny human to look after, maybe more if you have more children, but it's just a lot to think about. You can't necessarily plan until you're in it, and I think it takes you that time and that fog lifting to realise, hang on, I can't do things at the pace that I used to do them before. I can't necessarily have my business set up the same way as I did before. And I also don't know what the iteration of me in the future is going to even want to do. And like, I don't know, like, about you, but I've binned off so many offers in my business now that I used to love, but they just don't serve me in this season. I'm not the person to do that anymore, and that continues to evolve.
Yeah, and I probably didn't do as much planning as you did, because I knew to an extent. And I remember being like, it's fine, I don't expect to be the person that I'm going to come back to. Like, I was very much like, no, I'm not going to be, like, I did a lot of like, almost like grieving of my old life and what things were going to look like before I gave birth. So it wasn't like I was coming in being like, I'm expecting to be the same person. But I also feel like I found myself just being like, I need to sort this and I need to figure things out real fast. But I was still figuring out motherhood. Obviously our businesses are an extension of us, an expression of, that's how I see my business anyways, and it is like an expression of me, and I didn't know who me was. So I was like, how am I supposed to express myself, express my opinions, keep up with everything when I am drowning in postpartum. I do feel like it is the biggest blessing in business, because I think that it's taught me so many lessons, and I definitely think that feeling of most of us, most of the people that I know in business are millennials, and we have this belief that the way that I hustled in the first couple of years of my business meant that I got to where I was. However, when you have a business, and I was like, I cannot keep up with this pace, I was like, that was a huge like, okay, well, does this mean you don't want this anymore? Does this mean you'll be able to grow as quickly? How is this going to affect you that you physically cannot create as many offers, serve as many clients, work in the same way as you used to? And I think it's a huge awakening of like boundaries and actually sticking to them, and just figuring out what your next season looks like. And I didn't have a plan. I just kind of came back and was like, I'll just sort it when I'm back. But then that also meant that I had to be like, fuck, we need to sort that really quick.
We've got a concert to get to, and like, oh shit, it's 5:30 already. It's a real life boogie and a real life hold down. Don't be a bitch, go and take it to the floor now. Woo! Okay, we've got to move quicker. We said we were going to be out the door by
We
6.
literally have been had all day, but as we went to a Barry's and then went for an apple spritz and some pizza, and now we're here. Utilising the free happy hour that we've got.
Stunning.
But we wanted to follow on from that question that I was talking about,
Or like that point I was making about having to slow down, and actually, how did you still think that, or still plan to grow when not being able to move at the pace you once were? Because I think that's probably the biggest lesson, and is learning how to now work at a different pace to what I was pre-pregnancy. My business is still running, if not better than it was, with working at a slower pace, having better boundaries, working less days, all of those things. So what do you feel like made a difference with that for you? Because you definitely work less days than you did before.
100%, and I think the first thing that I just want to say, pick up on something that you said before, which I was thinking about, and I've actually had loads of conversations about here on YouTube as well, is the difference between hustle for a season and hustle culture. And we all know that I'm very anti-hustle culture in the events industry, as it pertains to so many agencies, so many just people, it's how we've been brought up I am a huge believer in hustle, and I've worked so hard to get to where I am, and so have you. And I think it's a case of like, if you know where you've got to and you've done the reps to a degree, so it's like honing your personal brand and knowing what you're known for is how we would both describe that. It's like, well, that's already done some of the reps for you. So I found that maybe my fear was that I'm going to get forgotten if I slow down. But actually, what happened was I never had so much interest, never had so many clients, growth across my business until I became a mum, because it added this extra layer. And so I didn't have to do as much of the heavy lifting as I did before, because my personal brand evolved with me. And actually I had something very unique to offer, which I didn't have before, which was this layer of empathy, this layer of understanding with parents and with entrepreneurs, and I think that's different. And then when it comes to pace, you simply cannot work at the pace that you maybe were doing before. But what comes with that and what is born is more intentionality, I think.
100%.
So I made myself a mantra when I went back to work, and I said, I'm either working, or I'm mumming and I'm present with my little boy, or I'm resting. Now rest could be sleeping, or it could be laying on the couch watching Netflix with a glass of wine, it could be doing a workout, basically something for me. And I really tried not to context switch. So however hard it was, I wasn't, like, babies nap a lot, right? So I was able to then, when he was napping, jump on my phone, create some content or whatever. But I wasn't then, when I was having dinner with my husband, trying to answer my emails or whatever. It was very much like I was in it when I was in it, and that allowed me to then be more present with motherhood, because it's my first time. Like, I was learning how to do something really hard for the first time. I had to be present, so therefore I was able to do more reps because I was so laser focused when I was in. I was dialed in when I was doing an activity, not trying to split my focus. And now I think, I don't know about you, but like, what the fuck was I doing before?
Yeah, but I do think now back, my mentality was, the more things I do, the more people I serve, the more sales I'll make, the more growth I'll have. And I do think, to an extent, you obviously want to experiment when you first start business, but now how I see it is like, people come to me, like, streamlined message, streamlined offer suite, streamlined everything. That means that people, when they find me, they immediately know how I can help them.
Yeah.
They know which offer is for them, like, and they'll just come straight in, and the trust is built. And I think that before, I just was so scatty with everything that I was doing and having to fill my time. And also, like, I think it's really hard when you go from a full-time job where you're like working a lot to then working in your business, and then you've got all this space and you just fill it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, like, we will always fill time that we have, right? And so, like, I think becoming a mother and having less time, or anything that you have, whether you've got like another job or whatever, if you have time, the worst thing that you can do in your business is procrastinate and just fill your time and actually not be moving, just feel really stagnant. And I think that motherhood pushes you to be like, you only have a 45-minute nap, so you need to only focus on the needle moving activities. Yeah, like, and what that, and I remember when I felt pregnant, I don't know if you still had this thought as well, I was like, people are going to think that I'm distracted, or they're not going to want to hire me because I'm a mother. And I remember being like, my whole personality won't be a mother, but like, it is. Like, I talk about it in my content, not like the only thing I talk about, but of course it's going to be mentioned. And I actually have had people hire me specifically because they're like, you get it. And I always saw it as something that was going to like hinder people choosing me.
But actually,
Do we have the same colour? Mine's bigger, I think.
Huh, yeah, interesting. But I think I actually had people who weren't necessarily not hiring me because I wasn't a mum, but I decided to start creating quite a lot of just motherhood content, not because I wanted to become like a motherhood account, but actually what came off the back of that was me launching like a secondary business which was all about motherhood, which I launched, which was projected to be a 6-figure revenue stream, and then I shut it down about 3 months into it because I was like, wait, this isn't actually what I want to be doing. But it's very hard.
That's when you're trying to figure out your identity.
You're trying to figure it, and your only identity in that moment, like, you are so much more, you're not just a mum, there's so much more, but it's what people don't get is like, it does take your whole world, especially when, you know, you have a newborn, and there's just other layers which you can add in, like, you know, especially if you're, you know, breastfeeding, for example, and, you know, I'm still breastfeeding 22 months on, but it's like that child just like needs you. You are their only source of food for however long, and it's it doesn't matter if you're bottle feeding or whatever you're doing, like they need you for everything. So therefore your default mode is being a mum. So to go back to my train of thought was that I just started candidly sharing more motherhood stuff. I remember having some reels, which I just like threw together, go mega viral. I had them hit like 500,000 views, more and more and more. And now that wasn't like a strategic move at all. It was the least strategic content I've ever done in my life, and yet it went, well, go figure, it went viral. But it's like you're hitting a moment that people relate to, and I think people suddenly went, I'm seeing her vulnerable side, I'm seeing her grow with me. And then when I think back to it, the coaches that I've worked with, like my coach at the time when I was pregnant, was also pregnant a few months, 5 months ahead of me. And then I just felt really cool to be working with people who were also mothers or parents, and I guess that just happened for me as well. People just, and even I have clients who are either now empty nesters and their children have grown up.
I feel like you've got a straight bit here.
Yeah, straight. Thank you.
Gals.
Yeah, and now, or like I have clients now who don't even want to be parents, but they're like, wow, I see how much more you get done now you're a mum, or I see how you're able to be present with your family. I want that with my partner or with my friends. Like, how can I learn that?
It's so interesting as well. I feel like when you move to past the stage of your baby being there and you working in naps, I think both of us did that. I worked in his nap, so every time that he would go down for a nap, I would work in it. And at the time, honestly, I didn't realise how much that was almost like making me be able to move past that feeling of not knowing who I was or what I was doing, because like I was so like, okay, he's down for a nap, let me do the thing that I want to do that really lights me up. When you move into childcare, and that's what I really struggled with to begin with, was really struggling to do anything for myself in the time that my child was being looked after by someone else. I was like, I have to be working in there because I paid for this.
Most of it.
Yeah, and I was like, not working out. Like in that time, I would have to like do it outside of that. And now I feel like my child is in childcare 4 days a week, and then I have Fridays off. And in those 4 days, like not only am I working, but I'm also making sure that I'm having time for me. But I'm not, we've spoken about this. Like I am not someone who is going to go and read my Kindle in the middle of the workday, because like I can read my Kindle at 7 p.m. after I put my kid to sleep, or I can read it in the morning when my kid doesn't wake up at 5:30. But it's like I can read it at the weekend. Like I feel like because my work is so boundaried now, then I can go and do it on the time that I'm not working. So I almost treat my business more of like I'm on and I'm off, versus before it was very like blurred lines. It was like
especially working from home and working for yourself. It's like, it's all we know.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the rules, you don't have a boss that's like clock in, clock out. And thank fuck we don't, because it's a lot more fun, right? And everyone wants someone to
always like, Abbie, stop fucking
go for lunch.
Do what you need to do.
And just get your work done. We are going to be back for part 2 in a moment, which will be quickfire questions, but we've really got to get some makeup done before that, so let's see you back.
And a new top up.
Yeah. So we're going to do some quickfire questions. I've actually asked ChatGPT to write some quickfire.
Our best friend.
Yeah, our co-pilot. So, how do you deal with comparison as a mother?
So we were speaking about this earlier, and I was saying that I really struggle to basically relate to anyone that, we don't all have the same 24 hours in the day, right? We don't all have the ability to be like, I'm going to go to bed earlier tonight and I'm going to sleep for 8 hours and I'm going to get up and do things that I used to do I used to be able to get up and like have a day before my even day started, and I
2-hour morning routine.
Yeah, and like being able to do the stuff for me and like being my creative stuff. So I really mute anything that I don't align with, or in terms of like, I don't want to say I would never hire someone that wasn't a mother, because I would hire for a skill set. Like if someone had a skill set, something like Facebook ads or something like that, that was a skill set, it wouldn't matter to me whether they're a mother or not. But if I'm looking at people for inspiration, or looking at, we all compare ourselves to like where someone is or the kind of business that they have. I am very mindful of investing or consuming people's content that I'm like, that's not how I would want to run my business.
It's so far away from where you are. Like there are people that I used to, so I'm going to use Steve Bartlett as an example. I love him. He's an incredible interviewer. He's an incredible entrepreneur. But right now I don't listen to his podcast because I cannot relate to him in this season of life. I would rather listen to a dad who is struggling, or whatever, and that's just the way it is.
What's the worst advice you've been given about motherhood or business?
Worst advice: quit your business and go back to having a job because it'll be safer.
Is that what someone said to you?
Yes. People like quite close to me as well, because I think it's just the done thing of like, oh, well, you'll get a maternity leave and you'll get this. And I think, yes, that's great, but I cannot imagine.
You could also get redundancy.
You could get redundancy, you know, but there is a yes and for everything, and there is a perfect scenario for everyone. But in this season of life, I could simply not have done motherhood in my previous job well. I couldn't have done the things that I wanted to do.
My worst advice in business is when someone says to you, just keep showing up, just hold the energy.
Hold the energy, it's
babe,
bullshit.
if you're holding the energy with terrible messaging and it's not clear and you don't know what you're doing and you don't back it, you're going to be holding your breath. Like,
and you don't have any energy to hold because your kid gets it. Okay, who do you feel more pressure to impress, your family or your clients?
My clients, I think. As a business owner, you're always going to be wanting to prove yourself to people that thought you were taking a risky move.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like I have to sometimes justify why I'm doing what I'm doing to people. Whereas with my clients, like I feel like I have impressed them and that's why they've hired me. I want to do them justice because I never take anyone's investment lightly, and I'm really proud to be their coach.
Yeah, but I think both of us feel very solid. I know that if someone comes to me and they don't feel clear in how to articulate themselves and translate that I feel 100% confident that I can help them.
And
I think that's a big part of like being really solid in your expertise and your skill set and knowing where you fit online, which we both, I feel like, have worked on.
And I think when you do stuff through a life first lens, which is what I'm, hugely an advocate for the events industry right now, like your clients will understand. Like the other day, my little boy had to go to hospital and he's fine, but I had to cancel calls, and I had a client that she messaged back right away and said family comes first. And it's like, I'm so grateful that I've built a brand that values and respects that. So simply, I do not sign a client or work with a client who doesn't align with that.
But you don't attract them either.
I don't attract them.
No, yeah. If you could have a full day without your kids, would you choose work or play?
This is kind of controversial, and I would actually choose work.
Same.
Because I realise maybe I'm a hypocrite now, in a hotel in London about to go see a concert.
But this is also
different.
Work, right? We'd be masterminding.
It's also, we're masterminding.
We'd have a day
content.
together, actually.
We'd have a day together.
If we had a free day,
work.
We'd be masterminding. I think the big picture stuff like really excites me. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I have time for that.
Big vision stuff
all the
away
time.
from home.
Yeah, because
you have to be in a different environment.
I'm either like momming or I'm in my client
yeah.
work, but I have to make time for that big picture stuff, which we all know is the needle moving. So I think that if I got to like sit with my journal, which I would class as work, like I wouldn't class that as play.
Just doing the work.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to be like, oh, I'm gonna go and I don't even know what play would look like for me, because I feel like I do have so much play in my life. Talking about this earlier, like we have our mornings, we have our evenings. I play with my kid for like 3 days of the week. Don't look at my phone for client work. I feel very switched off and I feel very like balanced in that. So I don't necessarily feel like I'm craving play.
No.
I'm craving time that I can sit down and think, what the fuck do I want to do?
Quickfire, quick question. What's the biggest lie that you've told yourself about juggling it all?
Probably that everything can be having it your priority all at the same time.
Yeah. You can have it all, but not at the same time. And you can have it all, but you need to define what having it all means to you in this season of life.
I don't think that you can be fully balanced with your workouts, with your social plans, with your family, with your business.
Work-life balance is a myth. We'll be back. Oh my God, we're ready. Cowboy Carter, just in the nick of time. In fact, a little bit later. We've got our ponchos because it's raining like a bitch, but full outfit reveal, just about.
Scratched out.
But yeah, what do you think?
We love.
We're so excited. Right, see you later.